Focus. When we proclaim the gospel, we are joining with creation in declaring God's greatness. Psalm chapter 19, verses 1 to 4. This is our joy and our privilege as the redeemed. Matthew chapter 5, verse 11. Jesus extols believers to rejoice and be glad, even in the wake of persecution, because we have the assurance of a great reward in heaven. Furthermore, Jesus speaks of his intention for believers in John chapter 10, verse 10. I have come that they may have life and have it to the full. Surely then this fullness of life to be experienced right here and now is inextricably entwined with doing God's will, with us living as fully as we possibly can within his plan for us. So what when we fail to engage in that plan? What when we largely ignore his great commission? For us personally, it might mean missing out on some of that full life that he promised. But there are far greater, wider-reaching consequences. Firstly, if we aren't sharing the message of salvation with others, then it is left unproclaimed. Which begs the question, how are the people of this world going to hear about Jesus unless we tell them? After all, it is our job. The Bible tells us in Romans chapter 10, verse 14. How then can they call on the one they have not believed in? And how can they believe in the one of whom they have not heard? And how can they hear without someone preaching to them? Paul hits the nail on the head, doesn't he? How can non-Christians call upon God if they do not believe in him? Because they don't know about him, because no one has ever told them about him. How can they know about the one true God of heaven and the glorious news of the gospel unless someone gives them the message? This is our responsibility. When we look at it this way, we must surely recognize our position in the eternal destiny of everyone with whom we engage. Secondly, when we fail to share the gospel, another consequence is that people begin to turn to false gospels that the world offers. They sincerely put their faith and trust in something that they believe to be the truth. The reason they do this is because they've never heard of the one who says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. John chapter 14, verse 3. Why is it then that we do so often fail to proclaim the gospel? Is it out of embarrassment or fear? The Bible tells us in Proverbs chapter 29, verse 25, that fear of man will prove to be a snare. The devil will always try to use the fear of man to stop us from proclaiming. More than anything else, he wants Christians to be too afraid to share their faith. Are we letting the devil's schemes and plans prevail? Pray against him, his servants, their works and effects. Pray against the fear of man and pray for boldness in our proclamation of the gospel that can only come from the Lord.